What's up everyone, it's Sprometheus, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Joepresso attachment for the Aeropress. The Joepresso aims to create the espresso experience that many others have tried to achieve while using the Aeropress, but in my experience, no one's really been able to reach that level. Even though the Aeropress is capable of creating a good amount of pressure, it isn't really designed to be able to handle or create the amount of pressure considered acceptable to make an espresso. And to get around that lack of pressure, the Joepresso has integrated the use of a pressurized espresso basket in their design. If you aren't familiar with pressurized baskets, it looks similar to a standard basket, but when you flip it over, you see there's a distinct difference. Instead of having the plain filter screen, the pressurized basket has just one small exit point. The coffee in the pressurized basket goes into a holding chamber where it's then held while the pressure builds, and then once it reaches 8 to 9 bars, it's then released from that one small hole. So the question is, can that pressurized basket make the difference and take the Aeropress a step closer to that coveted point of creating a shot that is similar, or even at the very least close to that of an espresso machine? In terms of dialing in the Joepresso, there is definitely some quirks. The basket size is a little bit awkward and it doesn't come with a funnel or a tamper. So I used the funnel that I had on hand to fill it cleanly, and the directions recommend using the included diffuser screen for a tamper, but this isn't exactly the diameter and it requires a bit of maneuvering to get it all tamped down. Just like any other coffee brewing method, the grind size makes a huge difference in your results. And since the pressurized basket is considerably more forgiving to grind quality and consistency, I found out the hard way that I had to grind about 10 notches coarser than my standard espresso. This is because when you use a high quality burr grinder with a pretty fine espresso grind, it will choke up that internal mechanism that's supposed to allow it to build pressure, not allowing coffee to actually go into that chamber, which means the valve will never open, which means you're going to put pressure on it forever. And when I say I learned the hard way, I mean I applied so much pressure to that Aeropress that it actually shattered my last Bodum double wall glass. So after cleaning up all that glass, I switched to a small sturdy jar and continued coursing up the grind until I could press it through without developing a hernia. Once I had the Joepresso flowing, I was actually getting some really decent looking shots with a good amount of crema. And I put crema in air quotes because from what I understand and what I observed, the crema created from a pressurized basket is significantly different from that of a non-pressurized basket. It appeared to me to look more like foam and was very airy and dissipated rather quickly. By comparison, it looked a lot more like the foam that was created from the stream on the Frank 1 than the dense emulsified crema that sits on top of a non-pressurized shot of espresso. This theory was then confirmed a couple times over after a quick Google search and some reputable sources. But now that I've talked about what these shots look like, let's move on to taste. In comparison to shots from my Linea Mini or even the Flare, the Joepresso of course falls short, but that's comparing apples to oranges. But when you compare it to other espresso recipes and attachments for the Aeropress, the Joepresso definitely comes out on top. The added pressure appears to create a more balanced and flavorful shot than its other fully Aeropress powered competition. It does a decent job at creating some complexity, but it does taste fairly thin and there's a lack of body. This thin taste was then confirmed with a relatively low extraction percentage. After testing 10 shots with the Atago Coffee Pal refractometer and filtering each test using the VST filters, the max extraction I was able to get was a relatively low 15.04%. Espresso itself is a high ceiling, and a good amount of baristas and coffee fans alike have a certain set of expectations when it comes to espresso. Besides the things that we want from our coffee in general, like balance and complexity, we expect espresso to have a certain level of intensity and texture. The Joepresso makes it about halfway. It provides some complexity and some balance. It also gives you a little bit of intensity and some body. It really just depends a lot on the coffee you're using and its roast level. I can confidently say, in terms of espresso attachments for the Aeropress, this is the best one I've had, and it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'm just worried that maybe we're beating our heads against the wall trying to get the Aeropress to do something that maybe it's just not capable of doing. In the end, the Joepresso creates a concentrated form of coffee that is espresso-like or espresso adjacent, but isn't fully there. The lack of intensity, texture, and complexity may not be a deal breaker for everyone, but as someone who's been around the coffee culture for a while now, and particularly espresso culture, I think your average espresso aficionado would not be fully satisfied with what comes out of the Joepresso. But now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Aeropress espresso? Do you think it's capable of creating a shot that's similar or at least close to what we get from a machine? Or do you think it's just beyond the capabilities of the Aeropress? Drop your answers in the comments down below, along with any other questions you might have. And as always, I'll see y'all next week. And of course, a big thank you to my September Patreons, Ads, James B, Jacob P, David, Christopher, John K, Squeegee, Roe, Brian, Lisa, Obo, Andre, Rick Racer, Sean, Noel, Spookus, Bound Coffee, Mika, Samantha, Nathan, Claire, Steven, James K, Josh, Andrew Horrison, Bobby, Corey C, Curry, Jeff Roth, Ninja Warrior Coffee, Testing 123, Jason, Dave B, Jerry, RD, Tim, Matt, Tony, Zachary V, Tyler, UK Espresso, Robert, Underdunk, Jeffrey, and Oliver. And of course, a big thank you to the Barista and Barback tiers. If you want any information on my Patreon, there's a link in the description and in the upper right hand corner right now. And of course, a big thank you to you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications of new videos posted every Friday. Follow my Instagram at Sprometheus for content throughout the week, my blog at Sprometheus.com, my coffee at littlegiant.coffee, and as always, stay caffeinated. Pony Boy.